When most people think about quality or risk management, they imagine something happening after a problem appears. An issue occurs, an incident is reported, an investigation begins. But if you study high reliable systems, whether in healthcare, aviation, operations, or engineering or hospitality, something interesting appears. Failure rarely begins with failure. It begins with pressure. Pressure that shows up long before anything officially breaks. This is where prevention really begins. It begins with something called signal awareness. Signal awareness means learning to notice the earliest indicators that a system is starting to strain. And these indicators are usually subtle. They don't look like incidents, they look like normal work. For example, operational drift. A process slowly moves away from its original design. Small shortcuts appear. Steps are skipped because people are trying to keep up. Another signal is workaround behavior. When people invent new ways to complete a task, they are often solving a problem the process never even accounted for. Workarounds are rarely malicious. In fact, they're usually signs that people are just trying to keep the system functioning. But they also tell us something important. The process design no longer matches operational reality. Another early signal is capacity strain. Work increases, staffing stays the same, deadlines compress. People start moving faster, decisions happen quicker, and attention becomes divided. Now, nothing has failed yet, but the system is now operating under pressure. Another signal is dependency stress. Many processes rely on multiple teams, systems, or approvals. When one dependency begins to slow down or weaken, pressure spreads through the system. And finally, there's a hidden operational friction. This includes things like duplicate work, unclear ownership, complex system navigation, and information gaps. Now, none of these cause immediate failure, but together they create resistance inside the system. And over time, that friction produces drift. One of the most important questions someone can ask in a system like this is very simple. What is this going to become? If a workaround continues for 6 months, what will the process look like then? If capacity strains continues for a whole year, what will error rates look like? If dependencies weaken, where will the next bottleneck appear? Signal awareness is the ability to notice these early indicators and recognize that they are not random. They are actually signals. Signals tell us where prevention work should begin. Because by the time failure appears clearly, the conditions that created it have often existed for a very long time. High reliability doesn't come from reacting faster. It comes from learning to see the signals earlier. And once you begin noticing those signals, you start asking better questions about how systems are designed. That is where true prevention begins. The goal of quality prevention is not excitement. It's not about firefighting or heroic recoveries. It's not the late night crisis calls or working over the weekend. From a quality perspective and a high reliability organization perspective, the real goal is something most organizations rarely even celebrate, and that is nothing happening. No fires, no drama, no urgent escalations, no sudden breakdowns, no surprises. just calm, stable, reliable operations. Now, that may sound boring, but boring is the highest form of operational success. Because when prevention is working, the system doesn't collapse. People don't have to overextend themselves. Teams don't have to perform emergency heroics. Leaders aren't forced into crisis decisions. Instead, the organization operates in quiet stability. This is the heart of high reliability thinking. The goal is zero harm and minimal to no failure, and systems that are designed so risk struggles to emerge in the first place. Now, this doesn't happen by accident. It happens because someone, somewhere, did the upstream work. They noticed the early signals. They identified the risk before incidents existed. They designed processes before pressure arrived. They built controls before failure had a chance to grow. They reduced friction before people started creating workarounds. They engineered systems where reliability is the default condition. And that's what this is all about. The disciplines that allow organizations to prevent incidents, defects, breakdowns, operational drift, hidden failure modes, and reliability collapse before they ever happen. We need to talk more about the building blocks of prevention, the practices that allow organizations to move from reactive quality to design reliability. Because real quality isn't what happens after things go wrong. Real quality is what happens long before they do. And when prevention is working well, nothing happens. And that's exactly the point.